So you believe, as a professional person, that you believe the child. If the child comes to you and said, this happened, you should not say, you're making that up, or you're crazy, or your brother wouldn't do that.
Oh no, you got to take it very, very seriously.
Very, very seriously.
Because kids feel ashamed. They feel shame. So if you don't believe them, that just increases the shame. And I think the percentage is 98% of the kids that finally tell you are not lying. You know, you might find one or two, but really, you know, they're telling the truth, so you got to believe them. I mean, I was a school nurse for a while in Woburn, other towns, you know, all over the place. It's the same story. There is sexual abuse, there is incest, and you got to take it seriously. Just like the Catholic Church is finally getting the message with the priests and all that.
Yeah. It's a good thing, too. I think it will all be a better for it. I don't know what happened for the first couple of million years we've been on this earth, you know what I mean? This stuff didn't start last week.
I know.
And people, I happened to be in New York City, just to go off track a little bit. I was in New York City over the weekend, the Pope was there. And people would say, how come it's such a big deal in the United States? Well, it just hasn't gotten to other places. And there's some talk about in Ireland, they had some investigations. But I mean, people are people. And they're all over the world doing the same thing. So I think it's just something that will eventually come out.
Right.
I don't know what the answer is, though. I wish I did.
Well, I think the answer is the awareness and getting the kids that are high risk. You know, if kids are sexually abused, getting them treatment immediately, getting them to a psychiatrist, psychologist, having them talk about it. Because if they don't get treated, they end up being abusers.
Yeah, that's
down the line.
I don't know how that works, but there must be some medical.
What is done to you, you do to other
somebody
people.
Else, really?
It's the way the psyche works. Not always, but you know, a good many times it does happen.
Because even the sister her husband was beating her up.
Yeah.
He was physically abusing her.
Right.
And the brother offered to take her away and take her home with him, and she still didn't want to leave him. I don't know, you know, you'd say, boy, it must be a cycle. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
And it seems it's a proven cycle, because it seems that people get into that and they can't get out for whatever reason. I was more interested. Dad was an interesting character, I thought, because
John O'Brien.
John O'Brien. John O'Brien was mayor of Cambridge. He was a politician.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
And then Mom made sure that everybody in the family stood up, and the O'Briens were standing right up, straight and tall, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, because Dad was the mayor, or he was some politician. Then he went to Washington.
Right.
But you decided not to let him off the hook. He could have just went to Washington and be a good dad.
Yeah. And
you just wanted to get him involved in the whole story, too. I mean, he could have went off to Washington while Mom was being strict with the kids and Molly was out experimenting.
You can't blame the mother for everything.
No, I guess not. No.
But the whole thing is, I mean, I think with Molly, when she comes to terms with her life and has to face facts, I mean, she went through a teenage pregnancy and her drug addiction, but at the end, she realizes she can't, if she's going to grow spiritually and emotionally, she can't blame. You know, the blame game. You have to end that if she's going to, you know, grow and be happy. I mean, you know, we all want to blame people, but it isn't good. You know, you have to do some soul searching, and she did. But she was honest about it. Like, who am I to blame? Am I to blame myself? Am I to blame the culture of the Catholic Church? She didn't know who to blame, but she was getting rid of her anger, so she was facing her demons.
The demon, the desire for a drug, I'd have to say that I can't. They started off doing a little drinking beer and alcohol, and then rolled a few joints and smoked some dope, and then gradually got on a little bit further and further into the drugs. So I'm a drug abuser myself, but I never got into it. So I got scared before I got too far into it. You know what I mean? And I think that people have a difficult time understanding the desire that being addicted to a drug has on you. You know, you watch TV programs, and you know, people, the kids today try OxyContin, which is you're probably very familiar with, and now OxyContin costs so much that they go to heroin because it's cheaper. You know, give me a break.
I know,
but still,
crazy.
You say it's cheaper, but I'm not so sure. There would be more of them if they weren't afraid. You have to make them afraid of it, you know. And the ones that are not afraid, they're going to pass over the thing. Getting off is a terrible terrible experience.
Monkey on your back, can't get.
So Molly, after how long was she? Well, I don't want to give away too. We don't want to give too much of the story away. You know?
It's hard not to talk about it.
It's hard not to talk about because I think a lot of people can relate to it, especially today. Because I think all of that stuff started. You were right. In the 50s, people came back from the Korean War. And then I think I had friends that were in the Korean War and they were disabled in the Korean War.
Right.
And at that time, they didn't have after every war, they didn't have the medicine that they have now. And what happened was if you were severely wounded or severely had an amputation or something, they put you on these drugs, and you ended up as an addict.
I know.
But you were under the government under the government's control at a VA hospital or something. And then when they get discharged, it was very difficult for them to get off, you know, and that's probably was the beginning of it, because then Vietnam got worse, and then they were in Vietnam where the culture was, there was a lot of drugs there anyway.
Exactly.
Sadly, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. But I don't know, could you lecture children? No, you know, I mean, I told them, I had 8 of them, and I told every one of them, you know, don't do this and don't do that. But you say they leave the house and go down the corner, and you never know what they're going to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a terrible.
It's a luck of the draw
thing
sometimes. But I think that if, you know, I don't think parents should ever blame themselves if their kids do drugs. It's not necessarily the parents' fault. First of all, it's a disease.
Yeah, it is a disease.
Secondly, you know, your self-esteem, peer pressure. You know, one time I did this study with girls and self-esteem, and why teenage girls have such poor self-esteem. And a lot of them just do. They don't feel good about themselves. They're comparing themselves to what everybody looks like. They're high risk for picking up drugs and alcohol to make themselves feel better. I mean, it's amazing what a person can just do to themselves to try to fit in.
But it changed somewhere. I don't know. I had sisters before, you know, that they didn't do it. There wasn't, you know, they all wanted to look like Doris Day, and she wasn't, you know, and she wasn't doing anything bad that I know of anyway. But then you turn around now, and today's, you have Britney Spears and they're all driving the children around in SUVs drunk, you know. I mean, it's pretty wild out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether they want to become like that or not, but I think there's some materialism, money, I don't know what it is, but they're a little bit whacked out. But I want to just hold this up. Before we go, maybe we can get a picture of that, Kevin. Let's talk about the author a little bit now. You were a registered nurse. You are a registered nurse.
I am. I work for Arlington Visiting Nurses.
Okay. So now, these books that you write are basically, like you say, you have to write something about what you know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this is made up. I mean, most of it. Oh, yeah,
but I mean, it's...
But like I said, I write what I pretty much know about. And with the other books, I, you know, obviously did know a lot about stuff. So with this one, it was different. I mean, it is fiction. But I was Catholic.
Yeah.
I had a big family. There wasn't 8, but there was 7.
Yeah.
I didn't have you know.
Reaching for the pork chops, boy, was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ate fast, or you wouldn't get any food.